fun.
Okay,
Do it.
let's just have fun.
All right.
2, 1.
Well, that was a great introduction. I think I might interview myself. How's that?
What led you into the industry?
Desperation, frustration, and being young, being youthful. I knew exactly what I wanted to do at the age of 10, 5, and that was be a soccer player. And I almost accomplished it. I got paid for doing it and was kind of quasi-semi-professional because I got paid on the weekends to do it and it paid for my bills. But the truth was I was still only 15 and those people I was playing against were 21 and 22 and a lot bigger and I was very small and they didn't like me taking them on. So they took me out and broke my legs. I broke my legs twice, so that was the end of that and I couldn't do it anymore. So I was frustrated. And my inspiration was my brother, my big brother Robbie. He was like the mod, he was the top mod in my little town. He had a Lambretta and he was always dressed cool, he loved what he did. And he was a hairdresser, in fact he was a barber. And so I said, if he could do it, I could do it. I says, you know, I want to be a hairdresser now. And he says, okay, I'll help you. And I says, you barber? I said, no, I don't want to be a barber, I want to be a ladies hairdresser because I want to be around women, I like women. So anybody out there that wants to be a hairdresser, you're ahead of the game as far as I'm concerned, because I did not want to be one.
Can you tell us how you got involved with Vidal Sassoon?
Oh, that's an interesting story. And I was 4 days into being 17 years old and I got a job. Not at Sassoon's, at this place called Mr. Barry of London. And I worked there for a little while, and I worked for my brother for a little while, because I wasn't sure where I wanted to be, where I wanted to be. I didn't know if I wanted to do shushy poopy hair, I'll tell you about that later. But the whole thing was, and then I came home one night, and my mother says, in her little Scottish accent, she says, hey son, I want you to work for this gentleman, his name is Vidal Sassoon. And I went, who the hell is that man? You know, we went in my little Scot, and she says, oh, I think he's brilliant, I think he's brilliant. I went, okay. So I called that Saturday, and I had to go out to a payphone, put quarters in, and get on the phone and make an interview. And they said, asked me if I was a hairdresser, and I don't even doing hair, not even a year. And I said, I'm a hairdresser. So I did a little kind of bent the rules around a little bit, and they said, well, come in. So I went in on Monday, drove in to London, which I'd never been to. Got lost, freaked out, and that was the beginning of it. I felt very uncomfortable because I'm kind of a reserved kind of person, and I don't like being around people that I don't know, or coming to an entrance that I don't know. You know, and so therefore I was very uncomfortable. But with uncomfortableness comes success.
So how did Vidal Sassoon impact your career?
He had so much to offer, and he had so much inspiration and such good messages to give us all. And we adored him like he was like a demigod. You know, he came into the salon, which unfortunately he had just finished doing hair in the sense of not doing it on the floor anymore, and I came about 6 months later or something. I never got to see him work in a salon, unfortunately, but I did manage to work with him on stage toward the end of his career. He just made me realize that quality was such an important factor, and that you don't chase things that are just easy. Like, let's chase this, oh, I want money in life, or I want a big house in life. Nah, you just want to be a good person. You want to be a decent human being. I didn't know that though, and so I'm just saying that now because I'm older, much more, not educated, but just much wiser, that I know that's what it was, but I didn't know that time that's what it was. I was just a little on the bottom of the rung, you know, of the ladder. And I mean, come up and say, hi, my name's, and I'm like, okay. And he told me this beautiful man, he goes, oh, that's fantastic. You know, I'm like, oh my goodness me. And it was just amazing.
It's like when we see you at school.
I don't know.
I was like, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a little more nervous, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Elbows are up. Standing straight.
It's kind of the same way with him. I'm pretty much doing what he was doing, and I don't want to put myself that I'm as great as that man or whatever the case may be, but I tried my hardest to be in somewhat close.
As a young lad,
Yes.
Vidal Sassoon,
What were your goals for yourself?
Well, the only goal I knew was playing soccer and scoring a goal. Be the best that you can be, and do it to the best of your ability, and do it with quality. And that's what was my goal, just to be the best. I wanted to be best at Sassoon's, and there was at least 1,000 better than me, because we had a big organization throughout the world, and I was just one of the little peons at the beginning.
At what point did you realize you had a passion for sharing your knowledge?
I was a vauder, it's a Latin word for to look. And I studied Latin. It's really helped me a lot. But no, so I was a vauderer. I didn't have to shampoo. I was there just to look, be a clip, and I could blow dry. I remember being in Grosvenor Square, and I won't say the gentleman's name, but he was an art director there. A good one, a good art director, a good hairdresser. He asked me to blow dry, and I said, sure. So that I blow dried away and finished doing it. And I did it to the best I could at that time. And when I was finished, he came up, and I don't know whether it was to feed his ego or whatever. He just said that this was the worst thing he's ever saw in his life. This was an awful blow dry in front of everybody. You know what I mean? The client, all my peers and everything. And I just felt like this big, like the size of a mouse, so to speak. And I thought, you're not going to beat me up here like this. So I thought, but I'm going to take it. I'm not going to cry. I wouldn't anyway, but I'm not going to take this. So I just walked away. Okay. And I went to the back room and went and punched everybody inside, but I didn't. And it was right then and then I realized that I will never, ever, if I make it that big, to that level, embarrass anybody in front of anyone else. So that was the beginning of me knowing that I have a lot of influence. We all have influence. And I'm decent, as a hairdresser, but I'm really a very good coach, I believe. Because I understand, I can see it, and I can break it down simple if I have to.
Can you share your vision and purpose for color cutting?
A little bit of frustration, a little bit of ego, and then a sign of the times. Let's start with the ego. Somehow, somewhere along the line, I managed to get on that stage. How I did, I don't know, but I managed to get on there like a little idiot. I got on there because I wanted to be a rock star. You know what I mean? We all do.
You were a rock star in soccer, not
Yeah, but you know what I mean? But I want to be on stage. On soccer, not on stage.
Yeah.
I never realized that it's powerful, that you can actually involve people into what you're doing, but mislead them and lead them in the wrong direction. I didn't realize that. So I would do wow things. I'd shock them.
Yeah.
Like, and my cutting was shocking. It was good, but it was shocking. And then I realized that, a haircut's not anything without color. And I wanted to do the color. And I was taught to color. So I'm okay, I can do that. So then I started doing these ugly things called block colors. And they were ugly. I swear to God, they were ugly. And now and then they would come out looking good.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of it. But then I started getting better at doing it, and then I started realizing there's a correlation and a relation between cut and color. I couldn't tell you then why, but I just knew if I cut the hair and put this color on, it's going to do that, it's going to do that. And if I layered it, I had to change the color direction. But I couldn't tell you why at that point in time. But it was all shock value. We became quite a successful salons in Atlanta, Georgia. And not me, but my team, and quite a big team, 4 salons, and so it's huge, and a school and a training center. And we were in the south, and in Georgia, they're all blondes, they're all highlighted. We initially didn't do any color because we just wanted to cut hair, and we had no round brush, none of that stuff. It was just pure cut, blow dry. And then I decided, no, it's not working for me. I was driving a Jeep, my friend was driving a Jag because he was doing all this other stuff. I thought I'm going to drive a Jag. So colors were starting. So now we started doing all this color techniques and all that stuff. And then, after about 10 years of doing that, we did incredibly well at it, we as in the team. All of a sudden, my clients, who were in their 30s or 40s, were now in their 50s and 40s. But they're beautiful blondes were not so beautiful anymore. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I had no idea. That's where frustration came. And I'm like, why is this happening? And then somebody says, they've got gray hair scar. And I'm like, what's that got to do with it? And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And I had this ugly thing called block coloring or whatever. I didn't know what I would call it at the time. And I said, maybe I could do that. So then I started playing around. I thought, what if I did big sections, you know what I mean? But do them in a way that was fitted. And then also co-lights came around. That was the beginning. That was the aha moment for me. When I realized that if I took vertical sections, I got these strands or bands. That was the beginning of it. So that's the mother of block coloring. At that point, I still didn't know what I was doing. But it was great on stage because it was shock. And I wanted to do it in the salon and I kind of did, but didn't. And then I started playing with it more. Next thing you know, I'm traveling the world doing this block coloring technique, and it wasn't called color cutting then, but it was because I was doing it for companies, and I wanted to keep color cutting for me. That's how it kind of began. The very first one that really hit them all, I was doing a photo session for, it was either Coca-Cola or Pepsi, I don't know what it was. It was one of those. There was a lady, a Cherokee lady, Native American, and she had level 4, and Rob Brinson, who was a photographer friend of mine, he says, well, can you do some highlights? I'm like, are you kidding me? The head's down here, I do highlights in this time of the day? We're never get it done. So he says, oh, we got to do something here because they want hair broken up now. All right. So then I just, again, out of frustration, took the top of the head. I took this rectangle that says, if I did this and this and this, and highlights doesn't have to be blonde, which everybody thinks it is. I'm a rebel with a cause, and that's truly what I am. And I was a little frustrated and freaking out. How can I do this? So I thought, I'm not doing blonde on this level 4. This is not, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to do a red because I know red's going to come out in that thing. I'm going to do a black because I know when in doubt, go black. And then I'll leave her natural.
Okay.
And so I did that, right? And I just did
Colex.
And that's what Colex is. And when it was finished, and we blew dry it, and the photograph somewhere back there. I just looked and I went, oh my God, that's amazing. Did I do that? It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that was really the beginning of it, and I didn't know I did it.
So with the trends that we are currently seeing, how would you say that color cutting can translate to our beauty industry? Yeah.
That's a great question, simply because people are not seeing it. I'm seeing it, feeling it, hearing it, and it's going to take a while to get to where I'm going to tell you right now. But the truth is, it's a thing called efficiency. We hairdressers in the 21st century, unfortunately, are starving, and we're cannibalizing ourselves. And what we mean by that is, there's a thing called a cycle, and the cycle being that it's bringing back a client every so often. Whereas, for example, when I was at Sassoon's, I had to, when I say I had to bring you back. It was my responsibility every 4 to 6 weeks. I didn't have a choice. And if I didn't, I would be taken up to the management office one Monday, whatever the case may be, and they would lay out my number and say, look, what's happening here? You're not bringing them back fast enough. In 4 to 6 weeks, in today's world, it's probably 6 weeks. It's heavier, it's not as precise, and it feels weighty. So they feel, oh my God, I don't look as good. So mentally, I got to come back to Scott or Lisa or Sarah, whoever their client, their hairdresser is. And so that was the efficiency end of it. We had to do that. So if I was cutting Sarah's hair, I had to bring Sarah back. It was my responsibility to bring Sarah back in eight times a year. There's nothing wrong with being an artist making money. And I don't want to be a starving artist in life. I really don't. It's not necessary. And in this industry,
2021. Now, no more starving artists.
But you know what I'm saying? So that we can be an artist and enjoy being an artist and alive and enjoy the money you make as opposed to being like a Dolly or whoever, a Monet that didn't make any money, but their artwork is worth millions of dollars today. 3 things happen in this industry, and it's called a fad, a trend, and a movement. And in my time, I've seen 4 movements, and let me just put them in order. A fad is here today, gone tomorrow. So like, all right, and we're having a fad right now, and it's like color's big. When I say color, I mean bonkers color. Like mental color.
Yeah.
It's really big, and it's cool. I love it, but it's a fad. It's truly a fad. It'll be gone tomorrow, And then there's a trend, and a trend is here. That's here for 6 months, maybe a year, a season, whatever the case may be. That's a trend, and that will tell you. It will steer you like we do. I did a lot of videos and that kind of stuff and what was my collection. But that was a trend. It's a trend. It's what's happening today. It's what the client wants for tomorrow, so to speak. So that's a trend. And then there's a thing that I didn't realize what was going on. It's called a movement. And the movement being the very first movement. I wasn't around for it, but I was part of it, and it's still going to this day, but it's still there. It was geometric haircut. That's a movement. That changed the way we think, the way we do, the way we see, how hair falls, how it moves. how it swings, the whole thing. Then we had another movement called aromatherapy. And then we had another one called aromatherapy came at the same time as retail. And then the last one, which happened just rightly after that, was a thing called color. So let me tell you how long a movement lasts for. A movement will last minimum 20 years and can go on for as long as whatever. Think about it, we were perming hair in the 80s like it was no mention. So we really didn't color hair because they don't really jive well together. You can say they do. I'm just being honest hairdresser. I've never really seen, maybe I don't do good hair or whatever the case may be. If I do color, it's beautiful. If I do a perm, it's just on its own, it's beautiful. But when I mix them together, it's not quite as beautiful. It can be nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite, I'm not as happy. Because these two chemicals come together and they do something, whatever the case may be. Color came along, guess what dropped out? Perming. Because why? Because of what I just said. And now they're trying to say, oh, you can color hair and perm. You go for it, you know. You need to know what's in your box. And then people say, well, you know what? Oh, I want to be different. I want to be outside the box. But they don't know what's in the box. And they say, well, you're boring, Scott, because your box is this small. The reality is this, my box is the size of the universe. I didn't tell you how small your box, or how large your box can be. I know that I don't step outside my box.
So as an owner of multiple salons and schools,
There you are.
what would you say are some qualities of educators, students, stylists that would lead them to success?
In the Palmetto School of Phoenix, Scott Cole and Linda Yodice. I have to throw that in. Our MO is real simple. And this took years to get it. And it's a little simple little thing. And it ain't easy, but it is simple. I have a lot of mentors in my life, and one of them is my mother. And she said these silly things like, you know, if you get fast money, son, you'll lose it fast. I'm like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? If you chase money, you'll never have it. You'll be chasing all your life. And I'm like, okay. So if you do things with quality, you will have whatever you have. If you want to lead and you want to be out there in front, you better know your ABCs of doing hair or in life. Does that make sense? And yeah, so it's foundation. I want somebody to be humble. I want somebody to be honest. I want somebody to be open. And I want someone that will just say, just teach me, I'll do it. And somebody that's prepared to work. And not do it in front of me when I'm watching. I want people to do stuff. I almost said the word in my face from my S word. I want people to do stuff when I'm not watching. Because that's when history happens. When you're not being watched. Vidal got his first job, you know, obviously one of my mentors. His first job, they said no to him. The guy said no to him. He was a barber. He said, no, I don't want you. And then as he was walking out the door with his mother, he opened the door for his mom. And that just blew this guy away. And he said, oh my God, he called him back. He says, you start Monday. And that was the reason why. Because he had manners. I just want people to respect themselves and then respect everybody else. Sassoon has this amazing knack of bringing you down to the bottom and then dragging you by your neck back up like this. And if you can put up with it, then you become pretty strong. To the point where I'm like, I quit. I quit one time. First time ever I quit anything. And I got the job, I got it back simply because my art director, who was Henry Abel, still's doing hair at Trams in California. Great guy, great hairdresser. I remember him coming to me on a Saturday morning and saying, hey, I hear you're leaving. And I'm like, yeah. He says, why? And I just told him, I said, I can't take it anymore. I'm not good enough. I don't know if I'll ever be as good as you guys are. He says, and he just quietly says, you have it in you. And I'm like, what? He says, you got it in you. And it was right then and there. He changed my life. And that's what this life is all about. Just go like that. Just, no, go over there, Lisa. Because you'll be fine. And that's all it takes. And that's all he said to me. And he doesn't know to this day that was the most powerful thing he ever did to me. That's what it takes.
What about yourself do you think drew multiple companies to approach you and want to work with you?
There's a difference between a rebel with a cause and a rebel.
Yeah.
A rebel is somebody who just says, it's black. No, it's white. They say the opposite. A rebel is a cause is someone that says, I want this. I'm going to get there. And I may have to disrupt a couple of things to get there. Not pushing people any out of the way, because that's not on my MO, but I'm going to get there. I told you I wanted to be on stage, this little rock star. I walked into Pivot Point.
It's a lot.
No, it's a school.
Oh, is
You're
it?
talking about Pivot Point.
Yeah, Pivot Point.
Oh.
But in Atlanta, Pivot
Right.
Point School, his name is Mr. Arnold. And I walked in there, dressed in my suit, because I always wore a suit at the time. I walked in and I said, can I talk to Mr. Arnold? And I was kind of shy, you know, like that. And he says, no, I said, I'm Scott Cole. And they said, do you have a I said, no, I don't.
I can picture it.
Yeah.
I'm here for a couple of reasons, he said. He said, one, I said, I'd like to work here, because I the stuff that you know that I don't know and I can help. But in turn, I could help you. I says, but more importantly, I says, there's a show coming up and I want to be on stage. I swear to God.
Doesn't even want to work behind the scenes first.
No.
He said
Wow.
on stage.
It's good to be young and naive. Huh?
He says, how much do you want? I says, nothing. I'll do it for free. He goes, really? He says, gotcha. So he says, you can do it. And that's what I did. So I did it for Pivot Point indirectly, you know what I mean? And because I didn't know nothing about Pivot Point. But I'll get on stage the way you want me to do. Say, Pivot Point. On behalf of Pivot Point. And the headliner was Paul Mitchell himself.
Okay.
And the other headliner was Aveda Horst. And then there was
That's
all these other little
Yeah.
things. And then the other big one was Pivot Point. But you know, they didn't have quite the same clout at the time, but they were big.
Yeah.
We just, for lack of a better word, kicked ass. And what we did, we just did follow. We'd say we, the team, myself and Helga and Hartland, James, who else was with us? I think there was 4 or 5 art directors. And we all of the Scott Cole Salon, we just did hair and had fun. We just worked all day and we did beautiful hair. I brought clothes in, I had clothes done, and this, and did beautiful hair, and I would send them out. I'd send them all out and they'd walk, prance through all the whole show. And people would say, who is that? What is that? Who's that? Who did that? What is it? And that was back when these haircuts weren't that big. You know, they couldn't. At the last show on Monday, Horst from Aveda came in and sat in the very front. And I don't know who he was. I just
Oh, you
didn't
didn't
care.
know?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know it. I didn't really know Paul either, because this was my first show.
Yeah.
You know, and he sat there and took all it in, and he asked, and then at the end he asked me questions, and that's the very first time I did a swing bob on this blonde, like your color blonde. I mean, just platinum blonde, and I did a swing bob, and he just blew him away. And I'm like, he says, "Oh, I'd like you to come and work for me." I said, initially, let me think about that to Horst, because I didn't know who I was talking to. And then I'd go somewhere else, and I started doing a show in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Did a show there. And all of a sudden, I was known, and I say we were known for being on stage, cutting hair and coloring it. And if we messed it up, we would fix it on stage. Whereas a lot of people would do color, they'd start it on stage, send her back, and then bring her out when it was done. Perfect. No, we did it right there in front of you. If we messed it up, if we effed it up, then it was going to be fixed on stage at the same time. And so I remember at the end of Hershey's show, it was Howard Hafis came up to me and says, he brought me into the office to pay me, you know, and I said, you might think they get paid, get a little bit of money, not much, but just enough. And he goes, how'd you do? I said, I think we did okay. What do you think? He says, how did we do for you? He says, all you ever do is you just cut and color hair. He says, that's all you do. That's all he says. This kid does cut and color. That's all he does all day long. You know, like, but you do it good. And I went, color cutting. That's what I do. He says, all you do all day long is bloody color cut hair. And I went, can I use that word, color cutting? So I didn't come up with color cutting. He came up with it. So people started wanting this young kid from the South with his team. You don't know who the hell, what he was doing, but he was doing something. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it.
I think, like, just from hearing your story, because since you were the star of the soccer, that was something that you were good at, and you were, like, naturally lit in that. It's just a natural, like, it's just part of your personality.
I am. I'm prepared to work.
So what kind of preparation does it take to do that kind of
Oh,
stuff?
that's a good.
You know, everyone wants to be the star, everyone wants to be on stage, platform artist, this, the...
Great segue into that one, because you know what? Another little saying from my crazy mother. You know, where there's dirt, there's money. And I'm like, what does she mean? I'm 15 years old. No, when you're 15, I'm thinking, what the hell is she talking about? Because when there's dirt, I don't want it. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, I don't want dirt, Mom. I want the money. I don't want the dirt. But you know, but the truth is, what she was really saying was, where there's dirt, there's money. If you dirty your hands in the sense of not literally, because some people just got a computer that way, but you have to get in there and physically do work. We have a saying, you could ask any of my team members, we come together and we leave together. I'm not a diva, just because it's Scott Cole, come see Scott Cole, and because I drew them in, it's my name, I never worked that way. I mean, I was there, if we started at 5, Scott Cole was there at 5, quarter to 5. And when we finished at 8 o'clock at night, Scott Cole left with the team at 8 o'clock at night. And Linda Yodice and anybody else. None of us were divas. If you don't want to work, there's the door. And I love you, but you got to work with us.
Yeah.
If you're doing the ones that are on the floor, you do 4 a day or 3 a day, and you start at 9, then we have to be there at 4 in the morning to get, and 4 in the morning that day. But prior to that, which is on Saturday and Friday night, you have what we'd have is the model call, check them in, check what you want, pick up, be there at Saturday. My team would be there Saturday morning early. We wouldn't start at 12 and just do 5 because we wanted to work them. And everybody, and all my team would come in, and all my models would come in, and we would do little bits of them to see what was going to happen with all of them. And we'd have them dressed, make them up. So we all knew what was going on. We did the storyboard on Saturday. And it was a lot of work. It was actually more work than it was actually show. So, and we'd always have 5 or 7 models done. It was always an odd number, because odd is even to me. We had to do 5 to 7 models on a Saturday as well, get everything else together, the music together, this together, on stage, rehearsal for that. And we had to continuously get ready and set our mind up for 3 shows on Sunday and 3 shows on Monday. And then when you did like a 5-minute presentation, that was even worse. I wouldn't say worse, it was brilliant, but you had no chance of getting on stage and fixing anything. Like, we could be on stage and I could get out of something by talking, but when you do a presentation, it's just the models and your hair. So there was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and everything was fun with me. You know, we joke about it the whole time. But the greatest thing was to crash in the evening. Go back to my room. I didn't have time to go out and party like I wanted to, but because I would just crash, go home, and best thing, go home to my home. And it's sad, you call the hotel at home, go to your room, order, room service, watch a movie, and that's it. I'm done.
You don't even watch the movie.
Well, I would fall asleep. That's why I did. It was just something, because I was already talked it out. I didn't want to talk.
Yeah, you're something
I just wanted you know
So
that kind
you
of thing.
didn't party, that's the secret.
No, I didn't. I didn't party a lot. I mean, I partied hard when I partied hard when I was allowed to. But the most important thing to me was another thing my mother says: you don't mess. You don't. You don't take your professionalism into your social. There's a lot.
Want to share one of your greatest experiences? Could be show, stage, whatever.
Oh, there's tons. I'll do a show one for you. There's a show in Chicago, and it was called the Alternative Hair Show. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it was, and I was doing a show as well. I was doing the Chicago show, and this was something on its own, and I had to pay for it. And I didn't know if I could do it because I didn't know if I was going to spend the money on it, to tell you the truth. And it wasn't inexpensive. We're talking $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. So, being the Scottish person that I am, I thought, is it worth it? Okay, what can I do to... And you can't chintz on it, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that you either do it, all the way you don't. And I tried to get people to sponsor me, but because it's your thing. I thought, all right, and so I agreed to do it. I got my friend called me from London, who was the founder of the show, Tony Rizzo.
Oh.
Yeah, and we worked together. We fought together, by the way. I fought with him, and his brother and I were tight. He fought with me. We literally had a fight.
Oh wow.
I'm
You?
messing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sassoon?
it's Sassoon.
Definitely.
Because he was so arrogant, and I was kind of like, we all were, you know what I mean? But he was Italian, he would take it another step, and he'd tell you. But we loved each other at the same time, and when I say love, we respected each other.
Yeah.
But anyway, he called me and says, I'd like you to do the shot. Yeah. In the sense of, because all I was thinking was, I could do it, but I don't know if I could do the money.
How has Linda Yodice,
Okay.
how has she inspired you throughout your career?
Useless. Glue. She's the glue that kept me alive.
Glue the brains.
I would say she has definitely the brain. I think that I have a different type of intelligence going on. I'm definitely I'm this person that starts the fire and the inspiration.
Yeah.
She's the one that sees it to the end.
Yeah.
She just says,
Has
this
a
has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
She'll
is
put
it.
what do you want, Scott? Okay, this
1,
is
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see
And
the
it's the
beginning?
same. And it could have been anything. It could have been, like I said, the Chicago show. This is what I want. This is what I see. How do I get there? You know what I mean?
She's like,
and
okay,
Linda says,
1,
okay,
2,
can we do
3,
that?
4, 5.
So it's the same with color cutting. With it, color cutting was a shock value initially because I wanted that ego of mine said I want everybody to look like that, and I got a lot of all over the country and all over the world because I took it everywhere, and I just would shock them. And it wasn't until I realized that we needed to use it in the salon, but it was too erratic. And so she says, give it to me, because it was already there when she came aboard. She says, give it to me, let me look at it, and let me play with it, and let me be around you.
She's a scientist. No?
And then she said, when you eat, and next thing you know, this whole why it's here. And that's the important part. You gotta know why. You know what I mean? I would know why within me, but I could never explain it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be that detailed. Linda's a detailed person. I'm detailed when it comes to physical. She's detailed when it comes to detail.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, I've always said that she was a better hairdresser than me. Shit that she is, but that's just so good.
When you reflect on your career, what are the things in your journey that you appreciate the most? Things you've learned, things you experienced.
God, I
I
can
know,
answer
it's
so many different ways.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant
It's
one.
opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
I'll probably give you a few, and
Yeah.
then we'll go into more detail when you start doing more of this stuff.
Mhm.
Having a purpose in life.
Jane.
Huge. That can, yeah. That's huge.
I think that was really important.
Yeah.
Influencing people in my life. Wow, so many. Those two were important to me because I didn't think of any of those as a young kid.
Yeah.
I didn't care about purpose. I just wanted to be the best. And I certainly didn't want to influence, but I knew I had it in me. But those two, now I sit here thinking about it, purpose was important, influence was huge. How I, not me being influenced, but how I influenced other people. And asking for respect, not for me, but for this industry, was important. Because we were recognized as Hollywood would put us, oh yeah, these hairdressers, they smoking all the time, and we would just, one way, and you know what I'm talking about. And weren't intelligent and all that kind of stuff.
I think it turned
Oh,
off.
yeah, I think so too.